So I imagine that many of us have preconceived ideas of what a Christian looks like. Do you think that you could spot a Christian, a Christ follower in a crowd? A question of a different sort: has a Jesus follower's actions, a Christian's actions, ever embarrassed you? Have they ever done something that you were like, oh my, that's not my type of Christian? Or caused you to question their faith? Have they done something to embarrass you, or have they done something that caused you to question their faith? And then how about you? Have you ever acted in such a way that you were sure that you were godly, but others questioned your actions as not being holy enough, that you weren't acting Christian enough, not honoring God? In fact, maybe they even suggested that you could be a heretic. So if you have been doing all the things that you can to follow Jesus, like to do no harm and do all the good you can and stay in love with God, yet your family thinks that you are not following Jesus, that you are maybe a heretic, then maybe you would understand what Jesus was experiencing in this morning's gospel reading. If your family has trouble with your view of God, then there's a good chance you really get what Jesus was saying when he said, who do you think are my mother and brothers? And then Jesus gestured that all the people in front of him were his brothers and his mothers and his family. I imagine, and you could imagine, that his parents, his mother and brothers who heard this, were quite embarrassed by his public declaration, and they may be even angered. In a culture that valued family, they may even have felt betrayed. Family was everything in Jesus' day. Wherever you went, you as a person would represent the whole family lineage. In Jesus' time, it was expected that families of many generations would live together. So I'm sure that the familial influence and pressures were compounded by more than just what you and I know of a nuclear family. My maiden name is Brubaker, and it's a common surname in central Pennsylvania, especially in Lancaster County or among Mennonite circles. And when I go back there and I'm introduced to someone, they will always use my maiden name, because then they'll think they know me. And then right away, somebody will say, well, who's your grandfather? And once that's settled, they'll say, well, which of Alan's sons is your father? And once I share that, they get this look on their face, and I am pegged. They think they know my pedigree, and they think they know me, my personality, my strengths and my weaknesses. They think they know my character before they even try to get to know me. Jesus isn't talking about family as your genetic family. Jesus was bringing up this idea that family is much larger. Jesus is broadening our understanding of family to be a web of relationships that opens up spaces within it for a multitude of folks. He moves our understanding of family as simply a place of genetic origin to an understanding of family being a group of people that is marked on by the choices they make, as Jesus said, the choices of whoever does the will of God is my mother and father. So we're marked by doing the will of God. This morning's story begins with Jesus returning to his hometown. And like everywhere he goes, crowds have gathered around him. And even before he can greet his parents, he is answering the crowd's questions. He begins to minister to them. And he is so busy, he isn't able to stop and eat. His family hears the ruckus outside, and they have believed the rumors from the religious leaders that their son is preaching heresies. The Pharisees have twisted his healing ministry into evil, saying that Jesus is really a ruler of all the demons. He's the head demon, that he is using devil tricks to heal people. So his family rush out to stop his nonsense. Come home, you are hysterical. Come home, you are going against everything we taught you, everything that you learned at the local synagogue. You can sense the tension, the push, the pull, the struggle between the family who wish to bring Jesus out away from the spotlight and the people in the crowd who are yearning to experience the grace Jesus extends to them. Jesus had just spent weeks sharing the good news about the love of God, healing those in need all around Galilee. He has fended off the religious leaders who challenged him every place he preached. Thousands of people begged for his advice, for his care, for his healing, and some, as we know, received food. And I also believe that the crowd came to see Jesus and stayed with Jesus in order to experience Jesus' divine, loving presence. Jesus' presence of an unconditional love. You know, word gets around quickly when folks learn about someone holy who will appreciate you just the way you are. People like Jesus extended love to everyone without them having to prove anything, without them having to have fixed themselves. And now he is just steps away from his family home, but it's not the religious rule keepers and the tattling Pharisees, nor the Romans telling him to stop. No, it's his family. His own family is unwilling to listen to what their son Jesus has to say. Well, you know, his family was uncomfortable with the attention he was acquiring, and so maybe I should sympathize with them. But I want us to imagine what it must have felt like for Jesus to be trying to do what he was to do while he was put here on earth. And as he is doing it, it's his family that criticizes him. His cousins and brothers and mother are saying, "Son, you are just a carpenter boy. This is not for you. It's not what your people, these are not your people. Come home." But Jesus remains firm, declaring his need to do the will of God. You know, the push and pull that occurred that day over the will of God continues today. And in so many ways, times have not changed. There was systemic racism in Jesus' day, and there continues to be racial struggles today. There were large gaps between the wealthy and the poor back then. Try to imagine the poor who were sent to beg for food at the edge of the city, just outside the city gates during Roman times. They didn't or couldn't even dream of moving into a home inside the city gates. Jesus, however, worked to change that for them. God's will today is that we will continue to work to make systemic changes so that people can be freed from living in poverty. Today we have other issues. of who can unconditionally receive honor and love. Our LGBTQ siblings too often are not included, accepted, respected, and loved in many church circles. Jesus pretty much shut down the issue of who was to be included as his family. Whoever does the will of God, whoever loves the Lord with all their heart, with all their soul and mind, and their neighbor as themselves, whoever widens the circle for all to join, even when it's not popular, even when it gets difficult, even when folks will question. I pray that we will find the strength to not back down from proclaiming the gospel in our actions and our words, so that we may rightfully be called the brothers and sisters of Christ. Amen.